Hey guys, today's JuV video is going to be me talking about stories that I've started, but never finished, because this is a thing that I do. I have only finished about one thing of writing, really? So, we're gonna just jump right in, because I've got quite a lot. One of the first ones that I want to talk about is this one that I've got titled at the moment as Modern Zeus Fic. It's it's an interesting story that I came up with a couple of years back in an airport, where I was like, I wonder what would happen if gods were still about, sort of, but like doing different stuff. So I had this one. The whole idea of it was Zeus going and investigating a whole load of things that happen based around airports. There were some airplane crashes that I was having, and Zeus was going to go investigate because he was intrigued, because he goes and hangs around in airports because he's a bit of an interesting guy now. I made him slightly more likable, I think, maybe. Okay, then we've got all of my NaNoWriMos. I have not finished a single one. The first NaNoWriMo I did was in 2011, and the idea that I was working on was a mix of superheroes and God and stuff. The main character was a beginning superhero who was still learning the ropes, and like there was lots of XPs of me and family and friends and stuff, and the girl I liked at the time. Not a lot more to be said. Then my 2012 NaNoWriMo, I barely got off the ground at all with this one. Basically, what I was going for was an angel showed up at some dead guy's side and is like, okay, I've been told to get you to tell me a story. And like taps him on the head and gives him a burst of knowledge about the omniverse, the multiverse, whatever you want to call it. And like it was going to be a blending of this guy's life with alternative parallel lives that he's lived in other dimensions. It was a good idea, just didn't get anywhere. The next NaNoWriMo I did was a bit better again. There's all sorts of stuff. It was a fantasy, and I had come up with some interesting stuff for it, and just never finished it. It was the first one that I got really close to finishing, so 2014's NaNoWriMo was the first one I actually won with, and it's actually one that I think was really quite good, actually, or at least up until most of the end. The idea behind this one was characters who would end up calling themselves just by a sort of code name. So the main characters were the journalist, the agent, and the teller. And there was a very, very, very high security bank, and it was partially inspired by the Time Heist episode of Doctor Who. Then my 2015 NaNoWriMo was another one that I really quite liked the concept of and liked the working of, and just again didn't finish it. So the main character for it was this woman that became a fighting addict. She was addicted to fighting, but there was magic involved as well, and it kind of worked, but I made things too vague in some ways, and, you know, I'll come back to it someday, I think, or at least I'll come back to that same thread of material. Then, my 2016 NaNoWriMo was another one that really didn't get off the ground at all, but there was all sorts of interesting stuff. And now we're into some other territory. This one, which was a setup to a pun. This very strange one that I've just remembered about, which I used two prompts for: bathing a pet and a needed conversation. Right? So I decided to combine them and made it so that having a conversation with a pet while bathing it, yeah, it's a bit weird. One of the best pieces of writing that I've started but never finished is this one about this woman who is surviving in the post-apocalypse. She's the only one, as far as she can tell, and she doesn't know why she survived when no one else could. Like, everyone else died. It's all to do with volcanoes and stuff. And, like, yeah, she has been traveling across the world trying to find someone else that survived for the last, like, 3 years or something. And I think it's quite good. It's actually quite good. Then I found one that I basically just got character creation in it, which the idea behind these ones were that each of these 4 characters represents one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, but each of them is kind of the opposite. So war is based to create peace, pestilence to cure disease, death to protect life and the balance. You know, standard stuff. I never came up with a proper way to use famine, though. And I called them the Apocalyptic Cultivators because that's such a good name. All sorts of stuff where I've got only like 1 line or something. This one is a very interesting one where I decided to really run with the whole idea of vampirism and that as if they were real diseases. So, vampirism and bansheeism are the 2 most common that I'd gone for in there, but there's also zombieism and werewolfism. There's a few others as well, but I can't remember them anymore because it's been that long since I was writing this. But, like, werewolfism was just being a werewolf. I would definitely rewrite that differently if I was going to do that, and I might come back to it at some point eventually anyway. But vampirism, like, I made it so that there was a reason why they couldn't just like get a blood transfusion or something. They had haemophilia and a lack of clotting agents, and thus they had to take it in through the fangs. That's why. Then I've got a whole load of alternate universe things that I was going to write fanfic about to do with the Avengers and that. So I was going to do an alternative universe where the folk from the Avengers are in the Avatar: The Last Airbender world. But there's one that I started at the start of this year, which was a really good fanfic about Legion and Blindfold that basically following on from the X-Men Legacy run that I really loved that I mentioned the other day. And the last one that I'm going to say about is this one called Reader that I was working on, which is very personal because it's about someone who will read anything at all almost, even stuff she absolutely hates, and review it. And then she finds one that she can't get into at all. Not that it's lacking in anything, but just that she just can't get into. And the whole story was just about her sort of being like, what is happening here? Why can't I read this? It was only really good as a short story idea, and never finished it. That's the whole promise of this video, is that these are the stuff I've never finished. Let me know in the comments down below about some stories that you've started but never finished. I would really love to hear about them because obviously some of mine are quite interesting. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you remember to like and share it and subscribe to my channel. Click on the thumbnails down below to see other videos by me, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.